Cold calling strategies, overcoming rejection in 2025. Cold calling in 2025 is still a pipeline lever, just a brutally honest one. Cold calling in 2025 isn't dead. It's simply the fastest channel for exposing weak targeting, vague positioning, and shaky rep confidence. Most B2B teams still see dial-to-meeting conversion sit around 1 to 3%, which means no is the default outcome on the majority of calls. The teams that consistently win don't try to eliminate rejection. They build a system where rejection is expected, measured, and useful. When leaders treat rejection like a personal failure, reps start protecting themselves with avoidance behavior, over-researching, tinkering with scripts, or doing admin instead of getting into conversations. When leaders treat rejection like a predictable part of a conversion funnel, reps show up differently, calmer, more consistent, and more coachable. That mindset shift is the foundation for any modern cold calling strategy. In practice, this is why top-performing SDR orgs can push past 5% dial-to-meeting performance, not because they have superhuman reps, but because they run tighter lists, clearer talk tracks, cleaner follow-up, and stronger coaching loops. Whether you build it in-house or with a cold calling agency, the objective is the same. Make the phone a predictable pipeline channel, not an emotional roller coaster. Rejection becomes manageable when your benchmarks are clear. A rep who believes everyone hates cold calls will hear every objection as proof they're failing. A rep who knows the math hears objections as normal steps on the way to a booked meeting. In most B2B cold calling programs, connect rates are often only 3 to 10%, and conversation-to-meeting conversion commonly lands around 25 to 30% once you actually reach a real human. This is why dial-to-meeting averages around 2.3% for many teams. You're battling both access, getting someone to pick up, and skill, turning a live conversation into a next step. Leaders who only track dials accidentally reward spammy behavior, while leaders who track connects, quality conversations, and meetings can coach the true bottleneck. That clarity is how you reduce unnecessary rejection caused by calling the wrong people at the wrong time with the wrong message. Once you have benchmarks, you can set sane activity expectations and remove the stigma from no. If a rep's personal baseline is 1 meeting per 40 dials, then every block of 40 dials is a measurable unit of progress, not a judgment of their talent. That's how we turn rejection from a morale problem into an optimization problem. Reduce rejection before you ever dial by tightening ICP and data. Most rejection isn't your pitch was bad, it's you never should have called this person. If your list is full of out-of-ICP accounts, stale titles, wrong direct dials, or roles that will never own the initiative, you're manufacturing failure. The quickest way to lift results is to make list quality non-negotiable with real B2B list building services, ongoing data hygiene, and a clear definition of who qualifies for outreach. In 2025, modern outbound teams reduce wasted dials by using intent signals, recent job changes, hiring or funding triggers, and tech stack context to prioritize who gets called first. Pair that with a light pre-call warm-up sequence, often run by a cold email agency or your internal email motion, so the call doesn't feel like a random interruption. This is also where multi-channel matters. Email and LinkedIn outreach services can create familiarity, and the phone can convert that familiarity into meetings. The common mistake is treating targeting as a one-time project, then wondering why performance drifts. Targeting should be a living system. Review closed-won patterns monthly, refresh persona assumptions quarterly, and ruthlessly exclude segments that don't convert. When you do that well, your cold callers spend more time speaking with plausible buyers and less time collecting pointless no's. Build a call structure that earns 30 seconds and creates a real conversation. The first moments of a cold call decide whether you get a conversation or a reflexive shutdown. We coach reps to open with clarity, permission, and control. Who you are, why you're calling, and a small time request that feels safe. The goal isn't to be clever, it's to sound like a competent professional who respects the prospect's time. From there, your talk track should be designed for discovery, not a monologue. Lead with a specific, believable problem hypothesis tied to the prospect's role, then ask a question that invites them to talk about their current workflow or constraints. A frequent mistake is feature dumping under pressure. The better move is to earn one useful detail, connect it to one outcome, and ask for a next step that matches their reality. Objection handling works best as short, repeatable tiles reps can deliver in their own voice, especially for early friction like "not interested," "already have a solution," or "send me an email." The point isn't to win an argument, it's to keep the conversation open long enough to confirm fit and timing. When you run calls this way, rejection becomes cleaner, faster, and less personal, which keeps reps dialing. Rejection is a math problem, not a personal verdict. Attack call reluctance with coaching loops, not motivational posters. Call reluctance is real, and it quietly kills pipeline long before anyone blames market conditions. Research shared by Behavioral Sciences Research Press suggests that 40% of veteran sales professionals admit to episodes of call fear severe enough to threaten their continuation in sales. When leaders ignore that reality, reps don't magically toughen up. They simply find ways to avoid the phone. The fix is structure, short daily call blocks, consistent role play, and fast feedback from call reviews that focus on controllables: opener clarity, question quality, next step ask. We've found reps improve fastest when coaching is narrow and repetitive. One behavior per week, measured and reinforced. The most common mistake we see is only coaching outcomes, meetings, instead of inputs: connect strategy, conversation quality, objection control. There's also a hard revenue penalty to avoidance. One sales assessment firm notes that missing daily outreach goals can lead to 20 to 40% fewer deals across a quarter, depending on cycle length. In other words, reluctance isn't a confidence issue, it's a capacity issue that shrinks the top of your funnel. When you coach the process and normalize rejection, reps stop hesitating and start producing. Follow-up is where most teams lose because they quit too early. A lot of rejection is really just "not now," and follow-up is how you convert that into pipeline. The problem is that many teams treat follow-up as optional. Roughly 48% of salespeople never make a single follow-up attempt, and 44% stop after just one. If your SDR team is doing disciplined multi-touch follow-up, you're competing against a market that often gives up almost immediately. Follow-up works when it's structured and low friction. Confirm the best callback time, reference the reason for the call in one sentence, and make the next step easy. A short meeting, not a full demo. This is where many outbound sales agency playbooks outperform internal efforts. They operationalize the basics so nothing depends on willpower. Done right, your reps stop feeling like telemarketing and start feeling like professionals running a process. One practical shift: measure next step quality, not just touches. A follow-up that adds a relevant insight, a new trigger, or a clearer problem statement is fundamentally different from just circling back. When follow-up is positioned as service and relevance, not pressure, reps feel less rejection, prospects feel less annoyance, and your B2B cold calling services motion becomes more sustainable. Optimize your cold calling engine with the right metrics and tooling. Once your ICP and talk track are stable, optimization becomes a game of small, compounding improvements. Track the metrics that actually diagnose performance: connect rate, conversation rate, meeting rate, and time to first live conversation per rep. Then run tight experiments on call blocks, time zones, local presence, and pre-call touches to see what lifts connects without sacrificing list quality. Modern tooling helps reduce avoidable rejection by improving context and timing. AI-assisted research, cleaner enrichment, and better sequencing make it easier for reps to sound relevant in under 15 seconds, while dialers and analytics make coaching more objective. The mistake is buying tools before the fundamentals are defined. Tools should amplify a working system, not compensate for unclear messaging. If you're aiming to hire SDRs or build a full sales development agency function internally, be honest about management bandwidth. Cold Calling USA coverage, compliance basics, coaching cadence, and data maintenance are ongoing jobs, not one-time projects. The best operators pick a build path that matches their ability to run the machine every week. When it makes sense to partner with a cold calling agency in 2025, if your team believes the phone still works but can't stabilize results, partnering can be the fastest route to consistency. The right cold calling company doesn't just make dials. It brings list discipline, talk track rigor, and the management cadence that keeps reps productive through rejection. This is especially helpful when your leadership team can't spare the time to run daily coaching, QA, and reporting. At SalesHive, we built our model to remove the most common failure points: bad lists, generic messaging, and SDRs drowning in activity that doesn't convert. Since 2016, we've booked 100,000 plus meetings for 1,500 plus B2B clients by combining US-based and Philippines-based SDR teams with an AI-powered platform, proven playbooks, and in-house list-building specialists. That mix lets your closers stay focused on live opportunities while an experienced team handles the reps, the dials, the objections, and the reporting. If you're evaluating sales outsourcing, treat it like an engineering test. Define your ICP, define what qualified means, run a pilot, and review metrics weekly: connects, conversations, meetings, and show rates. A partner should be able to support cold calling services plus complementary motions, email outreach, SDR outsourcing, and appointment setting without turning your brand into spam. When the system is built correctly, you're not outsourcing rejection. You're outsourcing the process that turns rejection into predictable pipeline.